And hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Before we get into today's video, make sure you drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more Celtic content. So of course we have just come off the back of a disappointing defeat to Lazio in the Champions League, a very poor result which kind of concluded a very poor European campaign this season. Obviously we have another game against Feyenoord in the coming weeks, but that will mean nothing. And it will be a good time for maybe some younger players that are registered in the squad to maybe get some minutes and stuff like that. Now, of course, with this poor European campaign and kind of the realisation that our squad isn't up to the standards of the top echelons of European football, a lot of transfer rumours and speculation and stuff like that will come out around the club. Obviously, and now we are approaching the January transfer window, so that's obviously fueling the speculation with transfers coming in. So today's video is majority talking about the upcoming transfer window with an outgoing being spoken about within the club that he's set to leave, possibly in the January transfer window or next summer, as well as Kieren Tierney talks about his future with Arsenal, of course, currently on loan at Real Sociedad, and a potential return to Celtic in the upcoming transfer window maybe as well, or generally just in the next summer as well, see what happens with regards to him. But yeah, so we'll get into that quickly in a second. Quickly want to apologise for the lighting on this video. It's pretty poor. I do normally rely on sunlight and daylight to obviously create the lighting in these videos, but I unfortunately cannot do that right now because it's kind of dark and gloomy outside, so apologies for that, hence why the green screen isn't picking up any background right now. But let's start with the talk about the player that could be leaving the club this January or potentially next summer, and that is David Turnbull. So, obviously Turnbull's been with the club since 2020 when he joined from Motherwell for £2.75 million. Honestly, a brilliant player. You know, he's had a poor overall campaign this season personally. I mean, he hasn't had the minutes that he wanted to, but he has been effective when he has come on the pitch. And obviously that was shown at the start of the season as well when he scored 2 goals in the first match of the season. But since then, on loan midfielder Paulo Bernardo has been favoured over him, as was seen in the most recent game that we spoke about earlier against Lazio, where we unfortunately fell to 2-0 disappointing defeat, where Paulo Bernardo started and Turnbull came on later on in the match. Of course, his contract is coming to an end. There were talk about him potentially extending it. That now does seem relatively unlikely because, of course, he's not happy with his playing time at the club. This one's a shame because Turnbull is a player with bags and bags of talent. It almost seems like he just doesn't fit into the current Celtic plans right now with the way they want to play and stuff like that, which of course is a shame. There are rumours coming out as well that AC Milan are interested in him, which obviously does back up the argument that he is a brilliant player and got loads of talent and stuff like that. When a big team like AC Milan do wants you, as you mentioned as well, Turnbull's contract is nearing its end, and it looked like he might finish his Celtic stint with sporadic appearances before exploring new opportunities. So now this obviously falls into Celtic's lap here. What do they want to do? Do they want to sell him in January, maybe recuperate some money from what they spent on him 3 years ago? Or do they want to wait till his contract expires and let him leave on his own terms and stuff like that? Obviously, of course, he's a good player to have in the squad, a good quality player as well to have in the squad. And obviously money to fans like us doesn't really matter, especially when we're not spending it. So ideally, I'd like to see him stay to the end of the season, my personal preference. I'm not one of those people that say, oh, well, we can get £2 million for him, because what does that do for me as a Celtic fan? Absolutely nothing. It's better to have him in the squad. So for me, I'd like to see Turnbull stay until his contract does run out and expire. But of course, I have to wait and see what happens with regards to that. But keep an eye out for David Turnbull and see what happens with his future. Of course, football's a crazy game. Anything can happen. I'm talking about this now. But of course, he could maybe get more minutes in the coming games. Obviously, now with Hatate still injured and stuff like that. I know Bernardo's playing recently. But he could get more minutes and potentially sign a new contract. And then Celtic could look to obviously recuperate more money from him in the future. But right now, his future looks elsewhere and not at Celtic Park. But let me know what you make of that down in the comment section below. Do you want him to leave in January, get some money for him, or stay till the end of his contract? Now, let's talk about Kieren Tierney, a former Celtic player, of course, who's currently on loan at Real Sociedad in La Liga. Had a struggle, he left Celtic in 2019 for £25 million. Started relatively well at Arsenal, but since Arteta's obviously been there and stuff like that, he has struggled for game time and injuries as well, should be mentioned, and he doesn't really seem to fit into their current style of play, hence why he's on loan at Real Sociedad. Similar to David Turnbull at Celtic, I suppose, doesn't really fit into the current setup at the club, despite obviously his undeniable quality that he brings to the table. He's obviously at Real Sociedad, as you mentioned, on loan, and they are keen on securing a permanent deal for Tierney, but his desire is to return to his homeland and open doors for a Celtic reunion. So this one obviously comes from his heart, I suppose. He was obviously a boyhood Celtic fan, made it very clear that he was very sad to leave the club and stuff like that. So a lot of people call him a traitor, but of course when Arsenal came knocking, he was a hard one to resist. But he does want to return back to the club. He made 170 appearances on and made a notable contribution with goals and assists. And of course, a major factor with this is Brendan Rodgers. They share a strong bond. Obviously, he played under Rodgers during Rodgers' first stint at the club, and obviously helped him develop his game as a player before he moved on to Arsenal. As I mentioned before, he doesn't really currently fit into Arsenal's tactical shifts under Mikel Arteta, and he's obviously faced competition for his position with Zinchenko coming in last summer, or the summer before last season. But yeah, this is an interesting one. What do you make of that? Would you like to see Kieren Tierney back at the club? And how realistic is this to happen? Of course, the finances involved could be major. He's a player on a lot of money a week right now. He's probably making about 100k a week. We can't obviously afford that as a club. And of course, the transfer fee in question as well, if there is going to be one. Obviously, it's a very romantic story that Tierney returned to Celtic, his boyhood club, and helping us out. For me personally, left back is, well, I think for a lot of Celtic fans, left back is a position that needs to be improved dramatically. Very poor. Greg Taylor is not up to it, in my opinion, for being a regular starting left back. Rowson obviously fills in here and there as well, but Taylor not good enough. I think if Tierney can return, despite his injury problems, it's a massive upgrade, of course. But it all depends on what happens in the upcoming transfer window, whether Sociedad do try and close that into a permanent deal. But of course, stuff like this normally happens and waits till the summertime. His loan deal doesn't expire until the end of this season, so I doubt anything will happen with regards to this transfer window. But it is interesting. Speculation is kind of mounting up a little bit with regards to his future. But we'll have to wait and see with regards to that. Tierney does make his return to Celtic in the near future. Obviously, I'd love to see him join the club. And obviously a massive upgrade on Greg Taylor, who for me is just good enough to be a backup option for Celtic, and definitely a position we need to improve on. But guys, let me know what you make of this down in the comment section below. First of all, would you like to see David Turnbull leave the club this January, or do you think we should let him run down his contract and still be a good squad player for us? And do you think Kieren Tierney, do you think there's any hope that he could return to Celtic in the future? Let us know down in the comment section below. That brings us to the end of today's video, guys. Make sure you drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more Celtic content. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.